Welcome,
Thank you.
Nadeem Mazen, right?
You got it, yeah.
Yeah,
Nadeem
very good.
Mazen, yeah.
Your recent entry to Cambridge? You've been here for a while?
I've been here about 11 years, yep.
Well, that's a while.
Between 11 and 12. Yeah, I came here for MIT and stayed, started businesses, and now I also teach at School of the Museum of Fine Arts. I teach
Great.
creative futures.
Creative futures.
Yes.
What's included in that?
It's a business class for artists, taking their passion and making sure that they can do their passion full time.
Any particular passions that
We've
stand out?
cultivated. Yeah, well, I mean, there's everything from a business about designer peanut butter and jelly to the traditional printmaking and fine art and acrylic painting and that kind of thing. And,
Oh,
people develop their brand, and it's the type of thing we should be bringing to K through 12 education. Take that after school, take that summer, and bring that passion right back into the classroom when it's class time.
wow. You working on that too?
Yeah, well, I teach. Yeah, I teach for about 6 hours on Fridays.
Okay. Oh, I didn't say that you're running for the Cambridge City Council.
Yes.
And why did you decide to run for the council?
Well, in teaching, in business, the things that I've principally been involved with in Cambridge, you work hard and you see results, and you get to watch the children grow. And in politics, I started going to a lot of city meetings and started getting involved in a lot of local issues. And when you put the time in, you don't necessarily always see the great results that you'd like. And I just think that people are ready to feel a little bit more represented by their counselors. So I put my hat in the ring, and I'm excited for the next kind of several years of candidates. There's going to be a lot of really good leaders coming up.
Right. How many new seats do you think there'll be?
Well, they say between 2 or 3. They say there's 2 open seats, right? And then usually statistically speaking, when 2 are open, a third comes into the mix. So I think
You're
that
gonna
would
be
be
one
great.
of those?
Sure, yeah. I mean, we're working hard, and we're going out there every day with our team, and we're meeting people on the street.
And how are you gonna change the city council?
Well, my view
If
is...
you get elected.
Yes. Well, my view is that you change by doing, and that my commitment is to actually spend a third of my after-tax salary in city council organizing within the communities. It's like a lost art that representatives are supposed to be representative. We need to spend that money and spend that time to make sure that every community has leadership, and that we're not just passively representing people, that we're actively going out to get that input and making sure that everyone feels like they're included in the process.
Wow. That's a commitment.
Yeah, it is a commitment. It's a full-time commitment, and it's why I also believe in self-imposed term limits. I think that my commitment is to spend 4 to 6 years in the council at the most, and that would be a hard-working 4 to 6 years, 10, 12, 14-hour days, the same thing we do in teaching, the same thing we do in business, but it has to be for community development. And if we do that, we'll get great results, and then we'll be, exhausted. It'll be time to fold in new leaders from the community at the end of that term.
That's impressive. So you're going to give up your teaching job and your
It's true.
businesses in Cambridge?
Well, my businesses have great managers. I'm very lucky
I
that
see.
over the last year I've been able to step back and let them run
They're
things.
going to run themselves.
Yeah, and I'm trying to build a whole unit over at School of the Museum of Fine Arts. So my hope is that when I step down and step up to City Council, that I will leave behind me a teacher or many teachers who are able to implement the business side.
Pretty good.
Could be cool.
Can have them and not have them at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general it's good to come in, express some good energy in a new project, and then leave that project not with a vacuum, which sometimes happens with long service records, but actually leave it even better, leave it with more leaders who are coming in your place. So I think we should do that in City Council as well, that every time someone comes out, we get 2 or 3 new energetic people coming in from the community, rather than the same, like, I've been waiting in line for school committee, now I'm waiting in line for City Council.
Yeah.
That's not how real organic leadership works.
Okay.
That's my feeling.
So what are these new, what are the new ones going to do? Or what the next new one's going to do?
So I hope that we can get a consensus-based, like a hardworking consensus-based city council that really, as a majority, agrees on some basic principles. One of those principles is after school and summer hands-on learning. I talked a bit about the business and the passion side, and we need that apprenticeship and mentorship in our schools if we're going to be spending so much during the school day. And that's the city councilor's position. They are the human services side. They are the after-school side. There's also the whole housing question. With such an emphasis on luxury housing, we're losing out on our affordable and middle income, which pushes artists and entrepreneurs and young families and longtime residents. out of the city, and we're losing the things that make Cambridge Cambridge. So those are amongst the basic issues that I think are kind of no-brainers, and maybe right now the leaders are kind of like, we'll refer it for study and we'll do it later, and my feeling is that those are such basic, such urgent issues where we're really behind, that the next generation of councillors in agreement will work very quickly to address these issues.
Well, you gotta first get them in agreement. How do you do that?
Well, my feeling is that over the next 4 to 6 years, we're going to see some strong coalitions around some of these common sense issues. The residents are fed up, right? And many residents are running for that reason. Luis and Jefferson and Janicki and Dennis Carlone and myself. I find myself so much in agreement with some of these candidates who say we need a citywide plan. We need to protect the Foundry building for arts and culture uses. And there's such no-brainer issues that, you know, as we begin to work together over the next 4 to 6 years, we're also going to see us get into office and work together in office as well.
You're gonna start developing a slate that.
Well, whether it's a slate or whether it's just a commitment to some of these common sense issues, you know, I don't know, but I am certainly supportive of those candidates and of many of our residents who want to feel involved in the city process.
Right. Anything specific you want to say about what the plan, the master plan we've talked about?
Oh, yeah.
Should
well,
include?
Yes. Well, at a very basic level, the master plan ought to include a prioritization of our uses and needs in the city. I mean, there are people talking about basic things like, in my neighborhood, we don't have access to a department store, or, you know, a healthy grocery that's also affordable, or, you know, a co-op that does this, or an arts and culture space that does that. So some of these priorities need to come into the plan as we look at development. In addition, there needs to be a comprehensive look at things like the architectural landscape, building heights, density, right, and how those fit into our other priorities and needs. There needs to be a look at how are we spending for luxury versus affordable and middle income. And then there's basic infrastructure things that no one ever talks about. If we're spending so much money ripping up our sewers, are we going to lay down some dark fiber for the next generation of high-speed internet in the city, or are we going to be behind perpetually every 10 years for the next 100 years? I don't think Cambridge really wants to be behind in that way, and so it requires a citywide plan to know how our development, our infrastructure spending, and our repairs and maintenance are going to work together rather than piece by piece in separate conversations.
Do you think the bridges and highways are
Part of that plan?
part of this plan?
Absolutely. Mass transit. I mean, we also, that's an MBTA and state issue, but it's also within the city councilor's purview as leaders. They must exercise leadership in bringing those stakeholders around the table rather than saying, that's not us, we can't do that. And they need to do that as a unit.
Good luck.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I mean, if 7 of them raised hell together, that would really bring a lot of people around the table, and at least we would be able to say, well, that's the event at which we're having a conversation. That's the event at which the city's talking about how they can match funds or how they can commission a plan for mass transit. And then when federal money comes in, then the city is first in line with their plan. You know, so that stuff happens.
Got a plan. They had these huge hearings about the MBTA last year.
Yes, I remember.
I guess it was last year.
There was the fair. There's a fair hike, and then there was also a lot of people talking about why the MBTA was saddled with big dig debt.
Exactly.
Which is crazy.
But that didn't change, and our efforts didn't have much effect, as I understand.
Just as many of the hearings in this city don't change much, and people go in with their notions, right? But as long as we have a few leaders sitting around the table and a lot of community members sitting around the table who are willing to call a spade over the next 4 to 6 years, I think that we'll really get somewhere. Right now, it's like, oh, well, we'll refer to that for study, and we don't know. But if there's someone who can say, listen, this is not good, then I think we'll really get somewhere.
You have a view about net zero plan?
I'm for net zero. I'm for net zero because I've read it. And when you read it, you realize it's not talking about, when people say net zero, they pretend like it's on-site generation of electricity, which is hard. We're not in Arizona. We're not asking people to put up, 100% roof solar. We're saying pipe solar in through the existing grid and make sure that it supports our wind farms and our solar farms rather than our coal and our natural gas. And when you do that, wind farms and other renewable energy sources are often willing to cut you a deal. So we actually don't...
Are they close enough to make this realistic?
It's not just realistic. You, as a homeowner, can do this today. You can do this today for like $3 extra a month. It's 6 cents per kilowatt hour. So imagine when a business comes in and asks for a bulk discount, they're actually going to save money by implementing net zero. They're going to plan for building efficiency, which they're already doing. That's not an added cost.
Yeah.
They're going to register their power consumption, which they're already doing as part of their billing. And they're going to source green energy over the grid, which they can do without any changes to their current infrastructure. So it's a no-brainer if you read it. If you don't read it, then it sounds very scary. And I think a number of the people who are currently on council say, I'm not for it, or this needs further study. And while I agree anything needs further study, I get the impression that many of them just haven't actually read the thing cover to cover.
Or they think that their constituents have not read it.
Well, that might be the case, but that's why I'm for it. I'm for it because it's simple to implement and because it's a clear step in the right direction. We also need to expand that not just to large buildings, but to the current stock of buildings over time.
It's great to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming.
I really appreciate it.
Good luck.
Are we doing anything with this player right now?
You don't have to do anything.
A little bit closer.
Yeah, that's better.
That's good.
We weren't particularly centered before. It's not right. So, whoops. Guess that's right.
Okay.
Welcome, Gary.
Hi, thank you, Ann. Thanks for having me.
You're running for the city council.
Yes, this is my second run for the city council. I tried in 2011.
Do I dare ask how you came up?
Well, not very well, but if you want to look, if you want to look at my performance for the amount of money I spent, it was pretty impressive. But you win or you don't
Yeah.
win, and I didn't.
Yeah. Well, you had a lot of competitors then too, right?
Yeah, but the dynamic is very different this time with 2 open seats. It's likely that as many as 3 will change. It's very significant that the 2 who have left are are from what I call the old guard, and that means there is going to be a change in the dynamic in the city council, just because of those 2 open slots. In addition, I think 1 more or even 2 are vulnerable to lose their seats. I don't want to say I'm hoping.
There you go. May as well have a chance.
Yes.
So why did you decide to run for the council?
Well, I decided to run for city council. The same reason as 2 years ago. I'm very worried about the way the city spends money. I believe that in the long run, we're going to make our city even more difficult to live in because we're just spending money irresponsibly. We do it well because we can, and I want to start having a little restraint on the way we spend money.
Do you think, what are the particular dangers of this particular way of spending?
Well, right now, we're a city of 6 square miles, 100,000 people, 105,000 square people. We have a budget of $500 million a year. We are on track to be a $600 million a year enterprise in just another 4 years. The problem is that
Prices keep rising though, right?
prices will rise in Cambridge indefinitely. They plateau at worst, but they continue to rise. The money that we spend, by and large, is the new money that's coming in from developers, from primarily MIT sourced. It's long been that way, and that new money is going to run out. When the city manager spoke last week, he told you that we took in $17 million just in building permits and fees last year. That is astounding. A lot of small towns run on $17 million. Anyway, we're not going to take that kind of money in forever, and the new tax revenue that's coming in has to come to a stop at some point.
So what do you think the council should do then?
Well, the
They
council.
can't spend money,
What's that?
if they can't spend more money.
Well, you got to put them on a budget. We don't have much of a budget. We have a predictable 4 or 5% spending increase each year. That's historic. Any organization can cut back 4 or 5% per year. We can simply say that $500 million is the upper limit. 2 years ago, I proposed that we freeze things at $450 million a year. Yet the rate of increase is actually increasing itself. It's very disturbing.
Is there anything else we should be doing besides cutting back?
Well, I want to tell you how we should cut back. One of my pet project is I want to make the Cambridge Health Alliance the primary insurer for the city of Cambridge employees. Now, we're going to be spending 1/8 of our budget this year on health insurance for our city employees. It's a lot of money, $68 million for 2014. That's $8 million more than we spent last year, and it's the kind of money that no company and no municipality can afford. I propose that we spend that money on the Cambridge Health Alliance, which is our in-house health service. Not only will it be good for the city employees, but it'll bring the money back here for the people who live in Cambridge who are otherwise uninsured, otherwise unavailable to afford the market rate insurance. Failing that, we have the opportunity to join the state's GIC system. City of Somerville knocked 25.
What is GIC?
Okay, it's the state's insurance policy, the General Insurance Commission, which municipalities are finally allowed to join. It used to be state employees, state agencies only. Somerville joined GIC in 2012, and it knocked a full quarter off its healthcare costs. Now, the employees weren't happy initially, but 2 years later, after the dust has settled, it's not all that bad.
So they got a little less service, but they're not too unhappy?
Oh, no, nobody said that.
No?
No, they just don't have the most expensive thing that's on the books.
Okay. So the Health Alliance is your biggest, your primary focus? For
Yes, because it's gonna take the money that we're spending otherwise, that we're sending outside the city, and bring it, and keep it here. Every dollar we spend here will be an investment. It won't be just something on the bottom line of the insurance companies.
Mhm. Some other issues that you'd like to discuss?
Well, Central Square.
What should we do about Central Square?
Well, we've got to clean it up. I mean, are we going to be serious about making Central Square a pleasant place to live? We are the dumping ground for every program that nobody else wants. I don't like the fact that we're the designee for whatever rehab program, drug program, drunk program. It all ends up here, and there's no reason to justify. There's no reason we should have to put up with it any more than any other part of the city.
So it's a matter of moving some of the programs elsewhere, is that what you're saying?
Well, it's not a matter of just simply moving them. You shut them down, period. Some of them. You can't go out of the business completely, but you can't have it all concentrated in this one area. Now, we're in the CCTV studio. The blue lights of a police car just went by. I wonder what kind of incident we're having on the sidewalk right now. That's what it's like living in the square.
There's always a police presence.
Yeah, you know, they're probably scraping somebody off the sidewalk. It's what the police spend much of their time doing. And it comes down to the bottom line to understand just how much these services are costing the people who live in the city.
I'm just wondering what you do with those people if they're not here, where will they be?
Well, they're going to move somewhere else. That's the truth. They're not going to stop drinking. They're not going to stop sticking needles in their arms. I'm just suggesting that I can tell you other places they're not going to go in the city. So why do they have to come here? And why do we have to tolerate them? We have enough. You know, I grew up here, Ann. We're a couple hundred feet from the house where I grew up. Next door to us is the Salvation Army. When I was a kid, the Salvation Army was largely a playground. In fact, it was so big that there were 3 separate sections. Now today, that's pretty much a dormitory space, halfway rehab, other programs going on. This is what the square has turned into, the collecting point for all the programs that nobody else will bear.
You know, it's centrally located. Do you think that's a factor?
Well,
That's where the city
I don't think that central is the right word to use. If you build it, they will come. I think that's more applicable.
Just move them.
Well, you can't cure them. The problem isn't our attitude towards people who drink themselves into a stupor every day. If they're not going to stop, they're not going to stop. You just can't accommodate them, and in some cases coddle them so that they consider this a home and an entitlement.
Well, I don't know what the reason is, but I've been around Central Square now for almost 30 years, and that part of it hasn't changed.
I think it's getting worse.
Yeah.
If you want to say that other places are kicking them our way, I would have to concur. Now you've got counselors who seem dedicated to adding more such programs. Ken Reeves is turning the place into a booze cruise without the boat.
Would you be specific?
Well, right now,
Also-
how about the center of Central Square, which is, I'm gonna call that the Blockbuster site. That's
Oh,
pretty much
yeah.
the center of Central Square. He was involved in the deal that's gonna put a 2 AM nightclub there. Maybe he doesn't want you to know about that, but when you put a bar on a corner, you're not gonna get retail next to it, you're certainly not gonna get housing next to it, the two are incompatible. So if you've got counselors who are working to drive people out of the square, who don't think that it should be a place for families, for retail establishments, you gotta change some of these counselors.
Okay, so because it's gonna be a nightclub and not something else.
Well, the
Where the
Man Ray
Blockbuster is.
nightclub, which will go in there, will be a
The
barrack.
What's it called?
It's called Man Ray.
Man
Now,
Ray.
yeah, I grew up in the building next to the old Man Ray. I'm familiar with Man Ray. It's a real problem to have nightclubs and residential. It just doesn't work. The talk this week, this last month or so, has been about the Middle East trying to expand. They want to put housing on top of it, and the owners of the project, the prospective owners, are saying it right up front that you're going to have to sign here. We don't want to hear you complaining about the noise and what goes on street level, because you know what you're getting into before you get into it. Well, they're not compatible. If you have a club that doesn't open until 6, 7, 8 in the evening, that makes all its money in just 3 or 4, 6 to 8 hour shifts during the week, everything around it isn't going to be very attractive.
Yeah, it's what we call entertainment these
Yeah,
days.
I mean, I want this area to be a residential and light retail zone.
Mhm.
I don't want it to turn into an adult entertainment district any more than it already is.
Good.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good plan. Do you have any thoughts about net zero or?
I couldn't be more
proposals?
strongly opposed to net zero. I think it's a crazy idea. I think that it just defies science. I call it the next cold fusion. We're now talking about net 0.5. We're talking about net zero. We're talking about son of net zero. If you're going to tell me net zero, zero means zero. Don't come out with any gimmicks, please.
What is the problem with it? Why are you opposed to it?
Well, it kind of defies physics and thermodynamics. I spent a lot of money going to engineering school, and it's been tough for me to swallow since the very beginning. It's tough for me to comment on it at all. We have the ability to build and design to the highest possible standards. The LEED standards are frequently cited, which are adequate, which are the best we can do without the gimmicks of net zero, please. Net zero did not originate in the city council. It did not originate from the city administration. It was a citizen petition put forth by a man named Mike Conley, and this has gotten a lot more than it ever deserved, believe me.
More publicity, more concern?
Yeah. It's taken up a lot of valuable time.
It probably will take more.
It's
That's my
not
guess.
dead yet.
Sure. So there's something coming up this week, right?
There's lots coming up on net zero, more of it. You know, these guys want to be straightforward about it. Without the gimmicks, please, I'm on board. But, you know, we started out with a proposal that buildings could be nearly self-sufficient. It's simply impossible. So if we're going to have, next we temper that by having gerbils running around in cages in Illinois to provide the electricity to make up for what these buildings are burning. Well, that's kind of bogus myself. I just can't swallow this stuff.
So what would you do for the environment?
Well, I used LEED standards. One thing
To reduce global warming?
yeah, the beauty of LEED standards is LEED. The first letter stands for L, stands for leadership. LEED standards are not a set of numbers and a set of standards per se. What they are is they're a challenge to the next set of architects,
You don't think
designers.
Net zero is a similar thing?
No, I don't.
It's not specific enough?
Okay, LEED was first. We don't need a. We don't need,
Lead is enough.
yeah, LEED is leading. So I don't need the gimmick of the net zero moniker. And as you can see, almost everybody running for the city council right now has run away from this, using various reasons that they don't want to endorse it anymore.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Okay.
More discussions. So thanks loads for coming. It's been great.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks for having me.
This way, 2 seconds.
Stop.
Stop, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Stop that.
I hit stop.
Good. Oh yeah. So I just want to make sure you're the right one.
Yeah. All right, now you're the whiz on this stuff, so if the